Hello, today is the 6th of January 2021. It is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit right now in the southeast of the United States. The weather is quite warm for this time of year, quite pleasant. Again, sadly, it's taking an entire global warming event for me to have good weather in this part of the world right this moment in the midst of winter. But never mind that, I would like to speak today about electric vehicles, EVs, something that has fascinated me for a long time, has caught my attention. I am myself the proud owner of a EV and have put a fair amount of mileage on it. I've owned it for close to 4.5 years now, and it has about over 60,000 miles on it. No problems, no mechanical problems at all. And I want to speak on the disturbing fact that EVs, even though they are quite popular among a growing amount of car owners, car buyers, car enthusiasts, drivers, they are, however, the absolute minority, yet they are nowhere close to being in par to the old, obsolete, and wasteful, and damaging, detrimental, critical ICE, or internal combustion engine vehicle. The fossil fuel burning, gas guzzling, engined vehicles, which are the ICEs. And that is again a sad situation, especially now in 2022, when back about 7 years ago I spoke on EVs, and I spoke on the availability of EVs at the time and how they were up and coming technology, and I would have thought that they would be much more prevalent right now, much more popular, much more affordable, much more available, frankly, right now, and they are not. Sadly enough, yes, I do recognize and admit that they are much more available today than they were in 2015. They are much more available, of course. We have many more variety companies, automakers that have dedicated themselves to the manufacture and sale of EVs, namely Tesla, Nissan, Hyundai, and a menagerie of other smaller companies. Big name vehicles have also thrown their chips into the EV industry, namely Volkswagen is among the major players right now. On the European side, BMW has been one of the pioneers for some time, even though their lineup has not grown so much. Also, we can talk about another major player that has stepped into the game, Mercedes-Benz, or Daimler-Benz. The company, the multinational company, conglomerate, has also been a leader in EV technology, even though if you ask me, it's been a bit late in the game. Another brand that has stepped up. Jaguar, they have a couple of models. Audi, or Audi, depending who you ask about pronunciation, has also been introducing about, I believe, one or two models. There is a growing amount of Chinese companies. BYD, NIO, I believe Volvo also, the European company, has a model, I believe, called Polestar. Correct me if I'm wrong, and Polestar may be an Asian model, but I believe it's a Volvo company. Correct me if I'm wrong again. But this is just a summary of the developments in the companies that have stepped up since 2015. I believe back in 2015 there were only a few major players, of course. Tesla, Nissan, I believe Nissan was still number one at the time. BMW had a few models. There were other smaller companies with a EV footprint, such as Mitsubishi with the i-MiEV or the IAM EV model. Also, again, there's many companies that I don't mention that have models not available in the US. I am focusing now in the US market, since this is the market I'm most familiar with. Yes, of course, there are many other markets out there: the Asian, Australian, European, African, the Latin American markets, the Indian markets, the East European or Russia market, and those are markets on their own. The Middle Eastern market, and they have basically many models that we really don't even hear about on EVs. Many manufacturers that we don't hear about, especially the East Asian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Southeast Asian markets. These markets are filled with EV models and companies that we frankly don't even hear about here in the Americas or the US specifically. And I wanted to go over, just to reiterate that, the situation is quite sad right now with the availability and the prices of EVs. EVs are still, in 2022, early 2022, a very expensive and unaffordable commodity, and something that only a top percentage of the US economy could afford. Right now, I believe, with my humble estimation, only middle class and up could even consider and think and even dream about purchasing an EV, a brand new EV. And the middle class and down can, of course, aspire and wish and hope and want and even get an EV, but their finances would be extremely stressed by such purchase. Of course, it is possible for any economic run to attempt and even get an EV. However, it is extremely difficult and exceedingly and growingly difficult as you go down the rungs of the economic ladder. Again, I'm going to reiterate that EVs are by no means cheap. Even the cheapest of the cheapest models are nowhere comparable to their ICE counterparts as far as price, unfortunately. And a lot of times they won't mention this. People will downplay this, especially those with interests in the EV market. But when it comes down to it, this is
sadly the case. And I'm going through a list here put by Edmunds, which is a absolute authority when it comes to car reviews, car pricing, cars, everything. To my estimation, I trust them a little more than some of the other major players, such as Car and Driver, and even the other Blue Book and Kelly Blue Book, and the I forget what the other major car pricing company is, but these companies, I believe, are very swayed and controlled by interests. Edmunds maybe, but not as much, I believe, as the others, because of the content on their reviews and stuff. It appears as if they are a lot more free and independent. But again, that's my opinion. Okay, so going through the list here is a quick list. I have researched some of this myself a couple of years back, but I'll go with their list for now. The one on the top as the EV that is the cheapest is the 2022 Nissan Leaf. Starting at a price, again, this is a starting price of $28,375. The range on the Leaf is a little short of 150 miles per charge. And again, the Leaf is not really the most value-packed car, EV, on the market. I believe that that title still goes to the Tesla Model 3. But when you get the mileage of available range in an EV per charge, and you divide that into its price, or you divide the price into its miles or mileage or range in mileage available, then you get your value. Basically, how much money each mile per charge is costing you when you consider the whole price of the vehicle. And I believe the Tesla Model 3 still comes on top of course. The mileage on the Tesla Model 3 is among the highest, if not the highest, available on any EV right now as I speak. And that may have changed just recently. Correct me if I'm wrong. But a Tesla Model 3, as of right now, again, is not an affordable vehicle. I believe it is still too pricey, and it's about $44,000, more or less, give or take $1,000. But we'll go with $44,000 and out the door price. And its range, it's reputed to be 250 miles. So that is $176 per mile, per charged mile. So again, if you multiply $176 times 250 miles, that's the range, then you get the 44,000. So again, the Tesla Model 3, not an affordable vehicle. However, it is the most valuable, basically the most bang for your buck, if you have that many bucks. Some of us do. Some of you do. So, going to the top of the list, the EV that is number one as of right now, apart from the Tesla Model 3, is the Nissan Leaf 2022. And again, it is at $28,375. This, of course, just the starting price. And you must, to be realistic, tack on about another $3,000 to that. A more realistic number would be about $31,375. The Nissan Leaf, again, does have other models. I believe one or two more models, or not really models, but what they call like packages, like battery range packages. I believe the bigger one could take it up to 250 miles per charge, which is not bad. However, that one is a lot more. I believe that one's up to $6,000 to $8,000 more, perhaps even more than that, than the $28,375. So you do the math. The next down, that is, again, let me reiterate that these cars are available right now on the electric vehicle market. You cannot say that about a lot of other vehicles that are in the pipeline or in concept stage or are just advertised. When we say available right now, that we mean, or I mean, that you can walk in to a dealership in any major city and find or acquire this vehicle for purchase. Many areas, of course, have limitations. That's why I'm mentioning major cities. Of course, they could be in smaller towns. There could be opportunities in any other place, but I'm going by what the common situation is, where you find these vehicles only in major cities, or mostly in major cities. The second one on the list is the 2022 Mini Cooper SE. And it has a EV range of 110 miles. It is a $30,000, $750 vehicle. It's $30,750 for purchase. It is available in the US. This car is a lot less available, to my estimation, than the Nissan Leaf. Of course, there's a whole lot less Mini Cooper dealerships throughout the US. This may be a lot different in Europe or any other countries. I'm speaking for experience here in the Southeast US. Again, $30,750 starting sticker price. That's, of course, give or take $3,000 to be more realistic. And it's 110 miles. Do the math for your value. Again, all you got to do is divide the cost of the vehicle, which I'm doing right now. It is $30,750 divided. We said it was 110 miles per charge. That takes it to $279.54. $279.54 per charged mile. Again, that is higher than what the Tesla is. If you need a quick reminder of what the Tesla was, I am doing the math for you, and that is $176. That is a lot less. The lower you are, of course, the more value. The Nissan at let's say it is $28,750, and its range is 150. That's $191.66. So we got the most valuable vehicle, although not affordable, the Tesla Model 3. Second up is the Nissan Leaf, the lower range. Third up is the Mini Cooper. And this is per Edmunds again, a source that I trust as of right now, and something that I have looked into a few times. This seems to be quite correct. The 2022 Chevy Bolt EV. Again, the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt with a B EV is priced at $31,995. And of course, give or take a couple of $3,000. Be more realistic, but let's keep it at that. They probably have done that here on this website. So it has a 259 miles range. Impressive, if true. And that may be number one when it comes to value as far as the range goes. You do have to consider other factors, of course: quality, maintenance costs, the life of the battery, life expectancy, the quality of the battery cells, and all of that good stuff. Of course, a battery that's going to last you 25 years is a lot more valuable than one that's going to last you 8 or 7. So you have to take that into consideration and see what's the state of research is on battery technology for the different manufacturers, what their reputation have been, what their ratings have been, meaning what people have said, what kind of issues people have had with their batteries and their vehicles. And it's also a repertoire of issues or systems that the vehicles bring that may play into, effect or play into the factors when it comes to giving value to one vehicle against the other. But we'll keep it with mileage and cost for right now. Mileage meaning range. So 31,995 when divided into 259 miles per gallon, that gives you 123.53. So we have a new winner. If we're just looking at that, we have the Chevrolet Bolt EV as number one when it comes to value. To my experience, the Chevrolet Bolt EV is hardly available here in this part of the country, and it may be more available, of course, in big cities, in the Northeast, in the Southwest, bigger cities, in the metropolitan areas all around the country. But I am speaking by experience because I was looking for such a vehicle, this vehicle specifically, and it was not available. Again, this was about 2 years ago, 2019, but yet it is something that I doubt has changed much. So yeah, you may consider this vehicle. This vehicle is an up-and-comer. It's a vehicle or model that has an impressive miles miles range for its size. I've seen it. It's quite attractive. Looks good. It is on the smaller side of, the EVs, and I am not really familiar with the reputation on its quality, its warranty, and all of that good stuff. So that's something that you may want to look into. So moving on to the next vehicle, the 2021. I guess they have not come up with a 2022 model just yet. Hyundai Ioniq Electric. It is reputed to have 170 miles per charge available, and it's $34,250. Of course, this car is not a larger value than the Chevrolet Bolt or the Nissan Leaf, for that matter, because of its range and costs. But let me just do the math to ensure of that. So 34,250 against or divided by 170. So that's $201. $201.47. That's the value of it. So let's compare it to the Nissan Leaf real quick. And when compared to the Nissan Leaf, which has 149 available miles per charge, it's 192. So yes, the Nissan Leaf is less valuable. 170. Let's do that again. So the Nissan Leaf is 192.95, and we're talking about, okay, yes, the Nissan Leaf is more affordable, more valuable. It is also more affordable, because this car is over $200. It's 200 and let me give you the right amount. $201.47. Yes, it's less valuable, although it has a larger or bigger range. But it does cost a lot more money. Excuse my slip up there. The Hyundai Ioniq Electric is a looker. It's a quite attractive vehicle, very sporty. It is on the mid-size range to my estimation. It is not too small or too large. It is right in the middle. A bit smaller, I believe, than the Tesla Model 3, but not by much. Very slightly smaller. Hyundai also has a very attractive and capable vehicle on the market that is quote-unquote available, supposedly available, in some areas here in the US. However, it is available. Can't say that it is not. And they have a 2022 model, the Hyundai Kona Electric. It is an SUV, and it has a range of a whopping 258 miles, and starting price is $35,225. Take that with a grain of salt. It is more like close to 40, because I have done a bit of research on this one model and vehicle. But let's say it's what they say here. starting price. Let's put it at 37,000 because that, I think that is low ball, very low ball, and you're not going to get it for 35,225. That is just not the case, I don't believe. So let's go with 37,225 at 258 miles. And that gives us a whopping value of $144.28. We may have a new winner as far as value. The next up, I believe, was the Chevy Bolt. So let's do that again to see how much that was. I should have been writing this down. Forgive me for this, and do bear with it. So let's go with the Chevy Bolts at 30. Let's put at 32,000, pretty close, and 259. So we have $144.28, $144.28 for the Kona, Hyundai Kona. Nope, we don't have a new winner. The Hyundai Kona is $144 and change. The Chevy Bolt, it is at $123 and change. So the Chevy Bolts, the Hyundai Kona, then I believe comes the Tesla as far as value goes, Model 3. Then I believe the Nissan follows. Again, that is only the value. When it comes to the cheapest price, this list is pretty accurate as far as which one's the cheapest. Again, the cheapest being the Nissan Leaf at $28,000 and change. The second cheapest, the Mini Cooper, at $30,000 and change, $31,000. Then next is the Chevy Bolts at $32,000. Then next is the Hyundai Ioniq Electric, as different from the Ioniq Hybrid, at $34,000 and change. And then the 2022 Hyundai Kona at $35,000 and change, more like $37,000 and change. And then we have the Volkswagen ID4. The Volkswagen ID4 is a looker. It is a quite nice car. However, it is in the high end of the price range. It is $41,190 starting price. Good luck getting it for that, especially right now. And it has a 260 mile range, quite impressive. However, the value may not be there to put it up top, to top the Chevy Bolts and the Hyundai Ioniq. It even may have issues topping Tesla's Model 3 and even Nissan Leaf. So let's see. I'll do a quick math since I'm not so good at math. I have to depend on a quick handy dandy calculator here. So 41,190 divided 260, we get 158. Yes, it is less valuable when considering the mileage per charge. Then the Bolt, then the Leaf, and then Model 3. And it may be a bit less valuable than the Kona, if I remember correctly. But don't quote me. Again, EVs are not, by any stretch of the imagination, very popular vehicles out on the road. I'm talking about the average driver, the average vehicle. You're not going to see the average vehicle to be composed of anything other than a minute portion that makes the EVs, made up of EVs. Meaning that probably less than, to my estimation, I'm going to look that up, to my estimation, to my experience, I believe it to be less than 1%. But let's see what the reality of that is. Specifically here in the US, yes, indeed they make less than 4%. I was off quite a bit. This is again sales of plug-in hybrids. Oh, excuse me. These are sales, all electric models. Okay, I was a little closer to the actual number. 2.6%, almost, let's say it's 3% by now. And these are numbers given by NBC. But I think they may be talking about Teslas. So I believe it to be about between, let's say between 2 and 4%. There's a lot of mixed numbers here, mixed percentages, because they may include hybrids in there, plug-in hybrids as electric vehicles. I'm talking about a completely electric, no fossil fuel involved. But yeah, they may be talking about a combination of electrified vehicles. So let's accept for now that the percentage is about 3.5% to be, considered and to be conservative or even a bit generous. And that is, to my estimation, very concerning. We should be close to 50%, if you ask me. By now, we should have been at 50% a long time ago, if you asked me. Electric vehicles have been out on the market for over a decade now. I'm talking about on the road. I'm talking about like mass-produced EVs, if we're considering EVs that have been produced in the low or non-mass production market. We're talking about even longer or even further back, 12, 13, 15 years. And unfortunately, the technology has not caught on as it should have. And I believe has been artificially censored, artificially held back, controlled, thwarted by many interests, including interests within the automotive industry itself, which is quite curious. We're talking about the Toyotas, the Fords, the Chevys. If you watch the documentary "Who Killed the Electric Vehicle," it was none other than GM, General Motors, that killed the electric vehicle. This was back in the 90s. So imagine, we're talking about the electric vehicle technology going back decades. In fact, electric vehicle technology goes in par with ICE vehicle technology, internal combustion engine technology, because I've been to a museum here in the Georgia area, where an electric vehicle from the 1800s is on display, late 1800s, when and it is stated on this museum display that electric vehicles were running alongside ICE vehicles back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when vehicles were beginning to be the next big thing. And the two technologies were competing, such as the technologies that were competing with electrical power transmission, between AC, the Edison's DC, and the Tesla's AC power transmission. The same thing occurred between the IBM machines and the Apple machines back in the early 90s. This is also, if I may mention, the competition between the DVD technology, such as the HD DVD. Some of you may remember that in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and the Blu-ray technology. Those were two competing technologies that were out on the market at once, and one over the other. I believe there has been cases that the wrong technology won over the better technology. This has been the case in many instances in history. So I believe we should be a lot further along. It is has sadly not been the case. However, we must keep pushing forward, keep pushing and demanding these technologies, demanding that we put more electric vehicles on the road. Demand the technology itself if you can afford them. Even if you could afford some of the cheaper, used, or more affordable models, technologies, vehicles, please do, because that is only growing the market. Another thing I want to leave you with, and to wrap it up, is that ICEs, internal combustion engine vehicles, haven't been basically the dominant form of transportation up to now. It still is. These vehicles are polluting our waters in ways that I had no idea it was possible. It is hard to notice unless you, like me, begin to walk trails where there's streams and creeks and even rivers and ponds and lakes that you see that are polluted, visibly and obviously polluted. You see slicks of oil and grease and motor oil, motor chemicals that are clearly giving the water surface in these ponds and streams and bodies of water, giving these bodies of water a sheen of multicolored deposits, a sheen that is unmistakably from motor oil and motor oil derivatives such as gasoline, diesel, all kinds of stuff. And it is not hard and not difficult to know how these waters get polluted. When you drive your vehicle down the road, on the highway, down your streets, on your runway, on your parkway, and even on your driveway, that vehicle, if it's an ICE, is going to leak oil. 9 out of 10 vehicles that I bend my knee and look under have all kinds of grease and oil and gas leaking out from the bottom. They are liquids. They will find a way to leak down into the ground by gravity or by pressure. These vehicles last an average, I believe, of over 10 years on the road in use. By year 5 of any vehicle, I don't care what brand or make or model, you're going to see oil leaking from the bottom of the vehicle. Not only oil, but all kinds of other fluids, oil derivative fluids, and these end up collecting on the ground. Rainwater rains on the ground, spreads and dissolves some of this oil, or most of it, and that water is flushed down and drained down somewhere. That water doesn't all evaporate. Most of the water of rain goes and drains into streams, into sewer channels and tubes and tunnels and all kinds of systems that channel the water to rivers and streams and creeks in low-lying areas, and pollutes all kinds of environments. Trees get sick. I've walked through areas where trees are extremely sick. You can see lumps and overgrowths growing on these tree trunks, branches, and the such. The trees look very irregular and asymmetric. They look as if they are struggling to survive. This is on top of the polluted water that you can clearly see down at the bottom, being sucked in by these trees. And this is also affecting the animal life. Some of that animal life may affect some of the food supply that we eat. Hunters eat deer meats and all kinds of other small game meats that may be in contact with these polluted waters. Fish and all kinds of other marine life may be affected, or river life may be affected by these polluted waters. A lot of people fish in rivers and streams and lakes and even ponds that may be polluted. And it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to stop this pollution coming from our roads and streets that originates with our vehicles. Yes, it is possible to stop driving these ICE vehicles, these internal combustion engine vehicles, get them off the road. But once that liquid, that oil, that chemical hits the ground, it is almost impossible to stop it from draining into the water streams. That is just how gravity works. Water drains downhill. Downhill usually ends up in creeks and rivers and streams. And those are usually they usually end up in our water supply. Not only, and that's not to even mention the water fissures underground wells, underground fissures and deposits and reservoirs that are fed by rain water. Where do you think the water comes from? It doesn't sprout from the bottom of the earth, from the center of the earth. Let's not be ridiculous and stupid. That water comes from up above ground. The same ground where we drive our dirty, leaking, and obsolete and old vehicles. So, if you could afford, long story short, if you could afford EVs, please do buy them. Please do invest in them, because we are killing ourselves slowly but surely. And EVs are a significant way to stop and at least severely curtail this madness, this damage that we're doing to every water and basically every body of water that we can think of, including the sea. Rivers and streams do go into the sea, and pollution that is carried over by these rivers and streams will go into the sea, and in different degrees affect our food supply through the fish, through the crabs, or the shellfish, or whatever other marine life that we may eat. So think about that. Please invest in the EV technology if you can. If you need to be convinced that EVs are many times, hundreds of times less polluting than your ICE, please do your homework, do your research. I'm not going to bore the rest of you that accept this fact with another 30 minutes going over why ICEs are more polluting than EVs. But I just laid out the main reason, the leaking of oil into the ground. That alone should satisfy that need that you may have to prove that ICEs are more polluting than EVs. But if you don't accept that, please look it up, and I may do a talk or chat about this very subject. Thank you very much. Have a great day.